Hello there. Welcome to this week's episode of Weirdos Like Me. I am your chief weirdo, Dr. Shannon. Today, we're going to talk about something that I have such a love-hate relationship with, and it's breathing. I mean, I love breathing because it keeps me alive, obviously. So thank you, lungs, for that. However, there is so much more to your breath than just the baseline keeping you alive thing. Not that that's not big enough in and of itself. However, your breath is linked to your physiological state, your emotional state, your mental state, everything. So learning how to harness the power of your breath is one of the most powerful tools that you can have at your disposal. Now, here's the hate part. I freaking hated breath work when I was first exposed to it. Honestly, I still hate some parts of it, but I really can't argue the physiological benefits. So I just suck it up and I do it because I know it's good for me and I feel better after, even when there's days that I absolutely hate the process of getting there. It's kind of like exercising. I'm sorry, but no one actually loves the actual process of exercising. I mean, like when you're in the moment exercising and it all hurts and you're breathing heavy and you feel like you're dying, nobody likes that. Okay, maybe like 3% of the population likes it. And we're probably not friends, but most of us freaking hate the actual work of exercising while you're doing it. Now, after you've done it, then you're like, oh my gosh, that was great. I feel great. I'm so proud of myself for showing up, blah, 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 whatever it is, the things that we say to ourselves after we have just endured the torture of exercising, because we know it's beneficial for us on the end, right? So that is me with breath work. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. Now, hopefully there will come a day that I actually enjoy the process, but that day is surely not today. However, I remember to always show up because I know the benefits and I feel the benefits on the tail end, and that's what actually matters. Sorry, awkward pause because I'm not doing a really good job selling this whole breathwork thing right now. I'm making it sound miserable. Well, anyway, that's kind of the point though. So the discomfort of doing it kept me from doing it for such a long time until I really, really learned the benefits. So I want to dive into that first. So you've heard me talking about the different parts of your nervous system over and over and over again, right? Sympathetic and parasympathetic. There's this thing called HRV, heart rate variability, and it measures the flexibility of these two systems. So this is what I use a lot with my patients in practice, and a lot of chiropractors use this as well to measure people getting healthier by measuring their HRV. Now, the less flexible your system is, the more susceptible to injury you are. And I don't just mean physical injuries. I mean things like chronic diseases, the things that are plaguing 80% of our population today. So most of us spend most of our lives breathing at one rate, very quickly and very shallow. And when we consciously alter our breath, though, and we breathe deeper and slower, we are increasing the flexibility of our nervous system. It's kind of like working out a muscle. You don't want to just work out a muscle with the same weight, the same number of reps at the same, what's the word I'm looking for? I said rate already, but doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? You want to vary it at some point because that's going to help build strength. And it's going to help build flexibility in that muscle so that you can actually really have a healthy muscle. It's the same with your breath. You need variability for true health. You can't just breathe one way at the same rate forever and expect to be healthy. So breathing is automatic, yet it's conscious at the same time. It's amazing. Other automatic processes, things like our digestion, for example, you can't consciously alter it. Now, when you're stressed, does it alter your digestion? Absolutely. But you're not consciously telling your large intestine to speed up or slow down rate of absorption. And, you can't tell the peristalsis in your intestines to slow up or speed up. You just can't do it, right? But your breath, you can use your brain and your thoughts to consciously shift and alter it. And guess what? Learning how to harness this skill is powerful. There are different breaths or different physiological reactions in the body. So let's say you want to get your body into a particular state. What if you could consciously start breathing in the way that that state entails, and then let your physiology follow to get you into that state? Doesn't that sound just a little bit useful? It's super useful, actually. And you can do this. In knowing your breath and knowing how to consciously control it allows you to tap into your physiologically, oh my gosh, into your physiology, and it allows you to understand your state at any point during your day. So this will translate into your mental health as well. This is why breathing helps with things like depression, anxiety, helps with insomnia, because it harnesses the power of your body versus looking to external substances to alter the physiology, which is really, really cool, because why not harness the power of your body? It's so powerful, right? So why not learn how to use it? So what are some of the benefits of adding breathing practices into your life? Some of the most basic things is, one, it boosts creativity. So when your body is in sympathetic fight or flight mode, it can't be creative. Your body, your tissues, down to your cells, they cannot be in growth and defense at the same time. So if you're stressed out, you're in defense, you can't grow and be creative. It's just not physiologically possible. When you consciously slow down your breathing, you bring your body out of fight or flight into rest and digest, into parasympathetic mode. And now that allows your body to be creative because it's not in defense anymore. It also helps you sleep better. Not only do you sleep longer if you can help consciously control your breathing, but you get a better quality of sleep. And then there's studies that show that it helps change your brain waves so you can actually get better sleep as well. Helps digestion. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but when you can control your breathing and alter your physiology that way, you can go from sympathetic fight or flight mode, where digestion is not a priority. The priority, again, is survival. So gut inflammation is highly linked to cortisol release, which is a hormone that increases your gut inflammation when you're stressed out. Your body doesn't care about digesting your breakfast if your body's stressed out and just trying to survive. It's going to save that process until it knows that you're safe. So if you are in a stressful situation and you can consciously bring yourself down from fight or flight into rest and digest, and then allow your digestion to fully absorb and assimilate nutrients in the way that you're supposed to, that's super powerful. Because even if you're eating super healthy, you're taking supplements, you're doing all these really good things for your body when it comes to nutrition. If your body is so inflamed and stressed out that you can't assimilate and use those nutrients, you're not getting the full benefit. If you can just implement some breathing techniques to help your body assimilate that or those nutrients, how powerful is that? Now, that's just a couple of things, right? I could do like a 6-hour podcast that lists all the benefits of breathing, but I think that would bore everybody, and let's just not go there, right? So let's make this really simple. Think of any physiological process in your body, literally anything right now. Just think about it, okay? If you added more oxygen into your system and you lowered stress hormones, do you think that would help or hurt that physiological process? Probably help it. Okay. So yes, breathing more and breathing purposefully will help with almost any physiological process in your body. So you have to know what to do, right? Because, I think it's so easy to just be like, hey guys, we should breathe more, breathe better. And then you're like, well, thanks. That's super helpful. So for me, I'm like, okay, tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So one of the things that we're doing more now than we ever have is mouth breathing. 25 to 50% of our population today are chronic mouth breathers. So studies of our ancestors have shown that facial structures have actually changed over time. And part of the hypothesis of this is because we've actually shifted from breathing through our noses to breathing through our mouths more. It's actually weakened some of our facial muscles, changed the structures. And then there's this whole route neurologically of what that can do to our health and can lead to some chronic diseases as well. Now, breathing through your nose has legitimate physiological benefits. When you breathe in oxygen and it goes through your nasal cavities, one, it slows the movement of that air down. It filters it, it humidifies it, it allows your lungs to absorb that oxygen more easily. And here's something super cool. When you breathe through your nose, your body produces nitric oxide, which actually helps battle viruses, right? And so like it actually helps your immune system filter the air through and filter some of that stuff out that if you're just getting it in through your mouth, it's going to be a bigger stressor on your body because you haven't gone through that pre-filtration process. So something that I learned after 9/11, people who were around the Twin Towers when the event happened, they breathed in a lot of debris, right? I mean, duh, from all of that stuff going around there. And obviously that's not good. Your body is not meant to breathe in all of that stuff. So there is this condition called ground glass lungs that lots of people who were in close proximity to the Twin Towers had, where they just had a lot of gunk accumulated in their lungs, caused a lot of coughing, very uncomfortable and unhealthy. So two doctors, Dr. Brown and Dr. Gerber, actually had their patients do this breathing technique to help with ground glass lungs. All it was, get this, super simple. You took a breath in for 6 seconds, inhale for 6 seconds, and then exhale for 6 seconds. And you just do that, right? So you're consciously slowing down the rate of your breathing. And they found that many of their patients' issues with the ground glass lungs were resolved just from doing the breathing with nothing else. It allowed their bodies to actually filter out all of the junk and all of the gunk without needing external medications and needing external things to help filter that out. It's amazing. Now, there are 1,000 different breathing techniques out there. Okay. So you can Google it, you can look them up, look on YouTube, do whatever, and you can find 1,000 ways to do it. We're going to talk about just a couple of really simple ones, because honestly, I think sometimes we make this more complicated than it needs to be. So when you're first starting out, start out with a 1-to-2 ratio, meaning that your exhale is twice as long as your inhale. All right. Now, when you first do this, you'll probably have to do this rhythm for several minutes before you even start to feel any type of relaxation. As your system becomes more fine-tuned, you'll be able to get into that relaxed state much quicker because your neural pathways are going to automatically link these breaths to relaxation and unwinding. So as soon as you start the breath, your brain will recognize this physiological state as relaxation and kick it into gear much quicker. But when you first start, don't do it for 2 seconds and then say, man, I don't feel anything. This sucks, and stop. And I say that because I literally did that. Okay. I would do this for 30 seconds. And then I would be like, yeah, cool. I think I'm going to go ahead and make my grocery list for tomorrow now. I literally couldn't even stay breathing for 30 seconds without being I'm moving on to the next thing. Consciously stop, make yourself do this for, 3-4 minutes, and then you can stop after that. And then just do it over and over and over again. You're just building memory. You're building neural pathway memory. And eventually that 4 minutes is going to come down to 3, to 2, to 1. And then you're just going to be able to start this physiological state from the get-go. Now, here's a really good one for when you're going to sleep. So do a 4 and an 8 breath. Okay. So you inhale for a count of 4, and then you exhale for a count of 8. This really slows down your system and also helps give you something to focus on besides the mile-long list of what you need to do the next day. So focus on the inhale 4, exhale 8. There's another type of breath called box breathing. And this is a really good one too. You inhale for 4 seconds, you will hold that breath for 4 seconds, exhale then for 4 seconds, and then hold the exhale for 4 seconds. I hope that makes sense. I hope I said that right. Okay, so inhale 4 seconds, hold 4, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4. When you first do box breathing, when your system is really not used to these big, deep breaths, you might actually get a little bit dizzy at first. So tip, don't try your first box breathing while you're driving, okay? Don't do it. Make sure you're sitting or you're laying down. Do it when you can get a little bit dizzy and it be okay. And then also don't freak out if you get a little dizzy. Just be okay with it. Let your body do its thing. you're practicing breathing fitness in that moment. Okay. So you're going to get stronger and you're going to get better at this over time. Now, here's the big wig, okay? So there's this entire practice of breath work called SRI. It's somatorespiratory integration. I've studied it. I've done it myself. I do it with my patients. And this is based off of the 12 stages of healing. And what makes SRI so incredibly different than other breathwork techniques is that it combines breathing with posturing and with verbal sounds, words, and declarations that you make simultaneously. Okay, so you're doing this all at the same time. Why is that important? Because not only are you activating the physiological processes associated with breathing when you do SRI, but if you now involve the structure of your body, i.e., bones, muscles, fascia with different postural movements, okay? So depending on what you're doing, you're activating certain postures. And you activate your prefrontal cortex with conscious words, and you activate parts of your brain that deal with emotion, things like your limbic system and your amygdala, by making certain sounds and saying words that conjure up certain emotions and bring them into your consciousness. And you're doing this all at once. Think about how powerful this is for accessing your healing potential. Okay. It's crazy. You're doing like 30 things at once. Okay. You're actually doing like probably 30 million things. I don't know. You're activating all parts of your physiology at one time. So you can alter your physiological and your emotional state whenever you want. So let's say you're having a terrible day. All right. You just feel crazy low energy wise. You just got really, really bad news. You're super sad, but you have a huge presentation to make in 10 minutes that's ultimately going to determine the outcome of your career. Okay. Huge, right? Like you don't want to go into a presentation, public speaking in front of a bunch of people that's going to determine the trajectory of your career when you just found out really sad news and you're stressed out. So what do? Do you let that physiological state of stress and sadness just take over so that you can't function and continue? Well, what if you knew a way to breathe, move, think in 60 seconds or less that will move you from this low energy, sad state into a higher energy, a transformational state, so you can go crush that presentation? Okay. You could do this breath work, bring yourself into a higher vibrational energy state, get the presentation done, launch yourself into whatever you're going to do career-wise. And then here's the extra important part. You can come back out of that state afterwards when you feel safe, and then you can experience that lower vibration and that sadness, because you do need to experience it at some point, right? We talked about this in a previous podcast. It just might not be the best way to experience it when you're in front of 500 people giving a speech. So if you can compartmentalize these in a way, but then also know when you can uncompartmentalize. I don't think that's a word. I'll just make that up. When you can uncompartmentalize them when necessary so that you can actually feel these emotions and process them appropriately. I mean, that's huge, right? This is how you don't get taken down by life stressors. Because again, and you guys will hear me say this 8,000 times, so sorry in advance, you can't control the stressors in your life. I mean, you can control them to a degree, right? But you can't control everything that's going to happen to you. You just can't unless you live in a bubble, you isolate yourself inside, and then you start a whole myriad of other stressors, right? About to go down a squirrel rant. We're going to come right back. So you can't control the stressors in your life, but you can control how your body responds to them. And all of these things that you can do, breath work being one of them, chiropractic care being another, keeping your nervous system flexible really, really helps you appropriately deal with stressors in a healthy way. Okay, I'm going down a real big tangent right there. So back to SRI. Talking about it in its entirety is way too complex to talk about in one podcast, but that is the type of breath work that I do with my clients and patients, what I do at healing events. And it's amazing to see the shifts in people's physiology when you allow the body to breathe and process things like it's supposed to. All right. So we talked about a few breathwork strategies today. how it affects your body, your mind, your physiology, and the coolest part, how you have the power to choose your state by mastering awareness of your breathing. So the biggest thing though, start small, practice the 1-to-2 ratio breaths, move on to box breathing, then dive into SRI if you so choose. Whatever you choose though, own it. Do it even if it's uncomfortable. Commit to doing it, even if you don't feel the benefits right away. Because honestly, even if you're not consciously aware of it, your body is physiologically benefiting from bringing your body out of sympathetic into parasympathetic mode every single time. Now, once you do it enough, you're going to become way more aware of your mental emotional state, and you're going to actually feel how your breath is influencing these a lot quicker. And it's really cool as you start to see that evolution. So be sure to share this podcast with a friend who can use a little bit more parasympathetic in their life. Particularly find a friend who freaking hates breathing, because again, that was me. And now here I am doing a podcast about breathing. The irony of the universe, right? Anyway, so go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. If you're listening, subscribe to the channel if you're watching, so that way you can get all of my weirdo updates. For now, this is Dr. Shannon signing off, and I will see you on the next episode of Weirdos Like Me. See you then.